Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and creator of the Salesology prospecting method. I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. And today, my very special guest is Jon Ostenson. He is the CEO of FranBridge Consulting. He is also the founder of FranBridge Consulting. The company is a two-time Inc. 5000 company. Jon is a top 1% franchise consultant, and he's also the author of the best-selling book, Non-Food Franchising. Jon draws on his experience as a former Inc. 500 franchise president, and also as a multi-brand franchisee in helping his clients select their franchise investments. Jon is a frequent contributor on franchising for publications such as Forbes, Inc., and Bloomberg. So welcome, Jon.
Hey, excited to be here, Wendy.
Well, thank you for being here. And I'm excited. I don't know a lot, as I said to you as we were prepping for this interview. I don't know a lot about franchising, so I'm really looking forward to learning. But let's begin at the beginning. How did you get into franchising? How did you become an expert in non-food franchising? What's the backstory?
Yeah, I never thought I would be in franchising, but it's funny how career paths take you. And I spent many years in the corporate world, very thankful for that experience. Had different sales positions along the way, as well as other types of roles, led teams. But had the opportunity to step in as president of Shelf Genie about 9 years ago. Shelf Genie is a large national franchise system. It's custom pull-out shelving for your kitchens and pantries. That's what the business does. But through some connections, had the opportunity to step in and support all of our franchisees across North America. So I ran our home office, had multiple teams supporting franchisees. And for me, that's when the light bulb went on that franchising is much more than fast food. There's so many industries that exist out there. And I just really fell in love with the model, seeing how diverse backgrounds came together under a shared system of support and allowed people to step out as business owners, but they weren't all by themselves. So yeah, fast forward, I've invested in franchises myself on the franchisee side, got multiple businesses, and now I get to spend most of my time helping others do the same. So absolutely love taking people through the process of identifying the best opportunities for them in their market.
Okay, that's really interesting. And you're very specific about non-food franchising. And when I first read about you, when I read your bio, that actually confused me. Because I guess when I think about franchises, I think about like McDonald's. And so I'm curious, why so specific about non-food? Is it significantly different?
Well, I'll start. Yeah, certainly when someone says the F word, franchise, everyone thinks fast food, right? I mean, that's kind of what comes to mind. And we've got nothing against the food guys. We love them. We need them. A lot of my friends are in that space. But my humble belief is there are easier ways to make money that exist in other industries, other businesses that require fewer employees, less operating hours, maybe less CapEx investment, maybe higher margins because you don't have food waste, less susceptible to consumer whims. So, that's what our clients are looking for. And so where we have them looking is kind of the other half of the market. So, I took a contrarian view on cutting out half of the market, the food side, so that I could go deeper in these other industries, industries like home and property services, health and wellness, categories like kids, pets, seniors, B2B services. There's so much that exists out there that oftentimes people don't have top of mind, again, when they hear the word franchising.
All right, well, that certainly makes sense. I didn't. So I guess let's take a step back here. And if I'm an entrepreneur, potential business owner, I'm thinking about starting a business. I mean, I started my business 25 years ago. So I'm thinking about starting a business. Why should I think about a franchise rather than I have an idea for a business, I'm just going to do this thing?
Not everyone's cut out to be a franchisee. Some people are too entrepreneurial, and we have to tell them that. Maybe they want to put their thumbprints all over the business, and they think they're the smartest guy in the room. They don't want to follow directions, right? But my belief, just based on what I see, and I see a lot out there, is that franchising is a better path for most would-be entrepreneurs. It allows you to have essentially training wheels, if you will, right? And you look at the sheer success numbers, franchisees on average are so much more successful than non-franchisees, in like-kind industries. That's just how it plays out. And the reasons for that are, you've got a coach on the sidelines in that franchisor, that's supporting you. You've got a playbook that's been proven out in other markets. There's product market fit. It's all about executing against the playbook. And oftentimes this gets overlooked, but you've got a ocean of other franchisees that are living the same thing you are day in, day out in their local markets. And so you're constantly exchanging best practices. It's like a built-in mastermind. So it sounds cliche, but you're really in business for yourself, but not all by yourself. And so, a lot of our clients will purchase franchises, scale them up, come back, buy more brands, or maybe they then start their own business. But the feedback I continually get is if they have a franchise in their portfolio, their other businesses benefit from the learnings they had from that experience.
Okay. So I think what I just heard from you is that if you uh, go with a franchise model as opposed to simply doing your own thing, that it's going to be easier and supported. There's essentially a framework for you, step by step, to follow because other people have done it first.
Yeah, and to make sure I'm crystal clear, I didn't say it was easy, but you said easier, right? So
Easier, not easy. Never
that's
easy starting a business, any kind of business, but
that's right.
easier than having to figure it all out by yourself.
Yeah, you essentially start on third base. A lot of things have already been figured out. You step in, you've got marketing that's already been optimized somewhat for the launch because they've launched in other markets. You've got a technology stack that's already customized to what you need, so you don't have to go do it yourself. So just shortcuts your way to growth and to profitability. But no, I oftentimes joke that if it was easy, everyone would be a business owner, right? And so I never want to sugarcoat that it does take work, but it is very doable. And you look at all the case studies around you and you say, hey, why can't I do that as well?
Absolutely. So if I'm thinking about starting a franchise, where do I start? What do I have to think about?
Well, certainly you can Google around, but there's some challenges in that. There's just so much noise out there, and every franchise company's putting their best foot forward. And even if you stumble across the top 100 franchise list from a publication, oftentimes companies are actually paying to be on that list. It's a PR move. So again, just a lot of noise. Where we come in, first off, it's entirely free to work with FranBridge. We essentially act as a real estate broker, but for franchises, and so we get a referral fee from the brands on the back end. None of that's passed on to our clients. So just like to get that out of the way, that's entirely free to work with us, and we work with over 600 franchises out there in the industry that are looking to expand, that still have good markets to expand into. So we come alongside our clients. And I've created a very streamlined path where, we'll get on a call, get to know each other, have them fill out a little bit of information, and then I'll come back and present opportunities to them. Sometimes as many as 10 or 12 opportunities in their market. If they're open-minded to different industries, I like to expose them to what's out there. So we start with kind of a large number and then narrow those down to 3 or 4 for them to then actually have a conversation with. And Wendy, that's really where the magic starts happening. It's when you get in the game, you start having these real conversations that you start to crystallize in your mind, what are those characteristics I like in a business or don't like, and how do I prioritize this versus that and compare and contrast. And so we hold our clients' hand through the process as they're going through calls and exploration, and we serve as a sounding board, and we can provide them with funding resources or a franchise attorney to review the agreement. So it's kind of a one-stop shop that we offer to help you cut through all the noise out there.
All right. So let's take a step back. And before I'm a business owner or potential business owner, before I decide I want to work with FranBridge, what do I need to know about franchising? What do I need to be thinking about other than I need somebody to help me?
Yeah, well, I tried to pack a lot of content into 90 pages in my book, which I know we'll talk about, because I do think it's helpful to start to connect the dots. And a lot of people we work with have read the book by the time we get on the phone. So again, it kind of shortcuts our conversation to more meaningful topics. But no, I'd say, again, franchising, it's all about following a system. It's When you look at franchise as a percentage of businesses out there, as a percentage of, per capita, income, it is a meaningful piece of the economy. I mean, there's 800,000 franchise operations out there, individual locations employing, I think it's like 80 million people, I'm sorry, like 60 million people. It's a big number. And a lot of times, again, people don't think of it as franchises because they're locally owned. So once people start to pull back the curtain and understand this world, I think they can quickly realize, hey, this is something that is a fit for me, or maybe I am more of that tech entrepreneur that wants to do my own thing.
Okay. So, what are mistakes that people make when they're thinking about or going into purchasing a franchise?
Buying a franchise is essentially establishing a business partnership. It's almost like a marriage. And so I encourage people to date around, to have those conversations with multiple companies before you settle on one. I think that's wise. When I look back to my days at Shelf Genie, where I had 100 franchisees across North America, and I said, who are our best performers? Who are the ones that are struggling? Our top guys were the ones that were following the system. And that sounds so cliche, right? But that's the reason why you get into a franchise. The ones that were struggling, and to your question, like that made mistakes, were the ones that stepped in and thought they were the smartest guy out there and that they could do everything their way. It's like, well, why'd you buy into a franchise? Case study, I had 9 clients buy into a property services franchise. It was in the gutter space. And most of them did very, very well, but one of them actually went out of business, which it breaks my heart. I mean, every now and then that happens, not very often, but I knew the CEO really well of the franchise. And I said, what happened? He said, John, we flew into the territory to support him. We coached him. We did everything we can. End of the day, he wouldn't follow the system. And that was his downfall.
That's so interesting that you would say that, because what I see a lot with our clients, when they have salespeople that are failing, it's often because the company has a process, a system in place, and the salespeople, for whatever reason, just won't follow it. And then they're not successful. So, how do you screen? I'm really curious for my clients, for being able to screen. How do you screen ahead of time for somebody that will or will not follow a system?
No one knows, like I'm never going to know my client as well as they know themselves. And so I try to give them information to help lead them to that decision. I'd say most people appreciate all the support. It's really interesting, Wendy. We do have a number of clients that are existing business owners that say, hey, we're looking to expand our portfolio, maybe add a complementary business to our core business, or maybe something that diversifies. And some of them are too entrepreneurial. They don't want to follow a system. But so many of them say, hey, I remember all the hard work I went to that first time around. I'd much rather have these things already figured out this next go around. So again, I think they kind of know themselves, and but I'll ask them pointed questions and try to get it to, the fact whether or not they think that they could, be willing to follow the system. Again, it sounds cliche, but it's so true. I think that's interesting what you mentioned about the salespeople. A good franchisor wants you to innovate. They want you to try new things. That's where the best ideas come from. They just don't want you veering too far out of bounds, right?
That makes complete sense. We don't usually want our salespeople veering too far out of bounds. So, you said something about date around, have a lot of different conversations. So, if I'm thinking that I want to buy a franchise, how do I do this? I call up the different corporate headquarters and say, hey, I think I want to buy a franchise. Who do I talk to? Like, how do I go about it?
Yeah. Again, if you submit your information in any portal online, you're going to have more calls and more outreach from those brands than you can ever imagine. So I would caution against that. And again, that's where we come in to try to help our clients all around the country streamline the process, identify the top opportunities, because it's important to understand what's going on behind the scenes. Franchising is just like any other industry. You've got really strong players that provide great support. You've got some that are not as strong, but you don't always know that looking at the website, looking at the marketing materials. That's, I'm constantly at conferences, constantly working my relationships in the industry, really understanding who are those companies that I want to put in front of my clients. So I'd say that is a good first step, is to simply reach out and we'll engage and then take you through what we see as those top opportunities. And we've seen a lot. And so I'd
And
say
if
that would
someone is
be
a bit
starting.
of a do-it-yourselfer
Yeah.
and they want to figure it out on their own before they come to FranBridge, um, what would you recommend? How would you recommend that they proceed?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you can do some research online. Again, there's just a lot of noise. I can't caution enough around that. And what will happen is if they submit their information somewhere, all of a sudden a lot of these portals end up selling their information to franchise brokers out there and companies. So all of a sudden they get inundated with information and outreach and calls and texts and emails that they never wanted to begin with. So it's a little bit of the Wild West out there. But certainly if they are a DIYer, they want to do some research on their own before they come. That's certainly fine. One thing is they may get excited about a business that they see online, but then the fact is that company's not looking to develop in their area, or they've already got a franchisee there and it doesn't show on the website yet because they just bought in recent months. And so it doesn't have that location listed yet. So again, it's just not the most efficient way to go about it. Whereas on the back end, we've got visibility into all of that.
Okay. And so, and this is something I hadn't really ever thought about before, but you can't have more than one, like you can't have the same franchise next door to you. So you have to
Well,
think about what's in the area as well.
correct. Not right next door, but when you purchase a franchise, you're purchasing the rights to exclusivity of territory. So if it's a service-based business that, say in-home senior care or a flooring company, roofing company, something that doesn't have a physical customer-facing retail location, your territory may be defined as 250,000 in population, let's say. The franchisor has all the demographic information at the zip code levels. They're helping build out those territories. A lot of people will buy multiple territories. And again, it reserves the right so that no one else can come in and operate that same business there. If it's a customer facing brick and mortar type business, then you would have a protected radius around that location. So in a market like Atlanta, where I am, you may have 3 or 4 franchisees because it's a large, sprawling market. But they're not going to be able to compete with each other in the same territories. Instead, they're neighbors, and if you play nicely, you can send referrals back and forth and work out it. Sometimes the sum is greater than the parts, and you're able to do a lot from a marketing standpoint, having multiple franchisees.
Well, it certainly seems like that would be another reason to do a franchise, in that it doesn't eliminate the competition, but it limits the competition because you've got your territory. So you might have competitors that are not part of your franchise, but you won't have competitors that are part of your franchise.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the number one piece of advice you would give someone that's thinking, I want to start a business. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. Um, what's the number one piece of advice you would give them in terms of thinking about a franchise?
I think taking it up a level, a lot of people reach out to us and say, hey, we've been looking for an existing business to buy. And that is, there's a lot of talking heads out there, a lot of content going around the idea of buying an existing business. And, that could be a good proposition. From where I sit, though, it usually takes people multiple years to find that business. A lot of people reach out, they say, we've been looking for 4 years, 5 years, and they come around to the idea of franchising. And what they realize oftentimes, and this oftentimes goes overlooked, is buying an existing business may look great on paper, but you're inheriting someone else's team, someone else's culture. Whenever you have a change in ownership, you typically lose a couple of key employees or key customers. And here in an existing business, you paid a premium for that business. So people then say, wait a minute, I like the idea of franchising because I'm taking a proven model, but I get to build my own team from day one. And so I would encourage people, do all of the above. Look at existing businesses, look at franchises, think about starting your own thing. As you're talking to franchises, you want to, in the back of your mind, think, is this something I could just start on my own? Or how much value am I getting from that franchisor that, makes sense to enter the franchise system? So again, in the same way I talk about dating around, I'd say date around on the different approaches to business ownership to begin with as well.
Right. It's not something you do lightly, speaking from experience. And I know, Jon, you have a gift for all of our listeners. So please tell us about your gift.
Yeah, no, would love to share a free copy of our book, Non-Food Franchising. It came out a couple of years ago, and it's just been, really well received. And like I said, most people have read it by the time we get on the phone, so it kind of gives us a head start. It's about 90 pages. We've got the physical copy that you can buy on Amazon or anywhere online. All the proceeds go to Hope International, a great nonprofit we support. But certainly for all of your listeners, we'd love to share a free downloadable version as well. So you can either download the PDF version or the audio version by coming out to our website, FranBridgeConsulting.com, and we will reach out to you with links so you can download it. And we hope you enjoy it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for that gift. And for all of our listeners, as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, the link to Jon's book, downloadable PDF or audiobook, it's in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link, download the book. And actually, I know I'm going to be doing that because there's a lot that I don't know about franchising, and it sounds really, really interesting to me. So, and Jon, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Certainly, when you come out to the website, we'll add you to our newsletter list. We put out great content about once a month, but I'm on all the major social channels. I'd say LinkedIn is the primary one where we put out content almost on a daily basis, and we have our largest group of followers on LinkedIn. So if you're active there, we'd love to connect and certainly help in any way we can.
Okay, wonderful. And again, if you want to connect with Jon, we're going to put all of his social media, we're going to put it in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on one of the links, connect with Jon. And I know you'll be glad that you did. And so I want to thank our listeners, thank all of you for listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders with my special guest, Jon Ostenson, who is the CEO of FranBridge Consulting. And if you have found value in listening to this episode of Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders, please think about one business owner, one entrepreneur, one president, CEO, sales leader, somebody that you know that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.